When Sarah opened the package on her front porch, she thought it was just another online order. But inside, beneath the bubble wrap, was a tiny speaker, and the moment she pressed play, a man's trembling voice whispered, "Help me, please, they've got me." In the quiet suburb of Chagrin Falls, Ohio, just 25 miles outside Cleveland, the kind of place where front doors were left unlocked and neighbors still borrowed sugar, lived Sarah Aldridge. Sarah was 32, a freelance graphic designer, living alone in a cozy craftsman-style house on Maple Drive. She had a rescue dog named Jasper, a soft spot for old crime novels, and an online shopping habit that had her UPS driver practically on a first-name basis. It was spring, April of 2022, when the story begins. Sarah had no enemies. She kept to herself, worked from home, and spent most of her time designing web graphics for small businesses across the country. People in the neighborhood described her as polite, thoughtful, and a little reserved. She wasn't the kind of person you'd expect to be at the center of a bizarre mystery. But that's exactly where she found herself. Around this time, a few neighbors had been dealing with package thefts. A missing dog crate here, a pair of stolen running shoes there, nothing serious enough to call the police. Just the kind of things people chalk up to porch pirates and move on. Sarah wasn't particularly concerned. She had a Ring camera, and Jasper barked at the mailman like he was Satan himself, so she figured no one would be dumb enough to steal off her porch. Then came Monday, April 11th. Around 10:42 a.m. Sarah had just finished her second cup of coffee when the delivery driver left a brown cardboard box at her door. Standard Amazon packaging, no return label, nothing strange about it, until she realized she hadn't ordered anything. That's what made her hesitate. She stood over the box for a minute, trying to remember if maybe she had bought something and forgotten. Curiosity won out. She brought it inside. It was light, maybe a pound or two. No strange noises, no ticking, nothing to suggest anything dangerous. She opened it slowly. Inside was a dense layer of bubble wrap, and beneath it, a small black Bluetooth speaker, about the size of a baseball. There was no note, no branding, no wires. Just the speaker, and a button on top. When Sarah pressed it, a voice played. Male. Weak. Quivering. "Help me, please, they've got me. I don't know where I am." She dropped the speaker. At first, she thought it was some sort of prank, maybe a viral marketing stunt. But then she played it again. Same voice. Same desperation. "I was in a van. I heard water. I think they're keeping me underground." Sarah felt her stomach twist. It didn't sound fake. It didn't sound like a joke. She called the police. The first officer on scene was skeptical. Officer James Drexler, a 10-year veteran of the Chagrin Falls PD, arrived just after noon. Sarah showed him the package, the speaker, and played the voice recording. He listened closely, twice, then quietly asked if she'd recently had a falling out with anyone. She hadn't. No ex-boyfriends. No disgruntled clients. No weird neighbors. Nothing. Drexler collected the speaker and sent it off to the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, but privately, he assumed it was either a hoax or a mental health issue. That was, until 2 days later. April 13th, another package showed up. This time on a different porch. A mile away from Sarah's house, Lisa Carmichael, a 58-year-old retired elementary teacher, found a nearly identical box on her stoop. She, too, hadn't ordered anything. She, too, opened it out of curiosity. Inside? Another black speaker. And another voice message. Different from Sarah's. Still male. Still terrified. "He's hurting people. Please, please tell my family I didn't leave them. I didn't leave. I didn't want this." Lisa was so shaken, she didn't even touch the speaker again. She called the police immediately. That got the department's attention. 2 unrelated women, 2 random addresses, 2 similar packages with eerie messages from what sounded like real victims. The BCI's initial analysis showed something strange. Both speakers were factory models. wiped clean of any previous data. The voice files weren't stored locally, they were streamed. That meant whoever sent them still had access. And they weren't done. Over the next 10 days, 4 more packages appeared. One at a high school parking lot. One on the hood of a car at a gas station. One left in a public mailbox. One at the front steps of a church. Each contained a speaker. Each played a voice. Sometimes male, sometimes female. Always begging. Always cryptic. Always terrified. And there was a new, horrifying detail in one message. They're making us say things. Things we don't want to say. If you hear this, don't trust the police, they're watching too. The FBI got involved by the second week. The messages weren't traceable by IP, at least not through conventional means. They seemed to stream through encrypted servers routed through the dark web. That suggested sophistication. Whoever was doing this knew how to cover their tracks. But what chilled investigators the most was that none of the voices matched any known missing person cases. Not one. No matches in the National Missing Persons databases. No one had reported hearing from loved ones through mysterious packages. It was as if these people, these voices, didn't exist. Yet the emotion in the recordings was raw. Gutting. Too real to fake. The FBI considered the possibility that this was an elaborate audio deepfake operation, maybe an attempt to provoke public fear or manipulate media attention. But that didn't explain the randomness of the drop locations. Or why the speaker in Sarah's package, still anonymous, had mentioned being held near water. Chagrin Falls is named for its actual waterfalls, cascading, churning water that echoes across downtown. There were drainage tunnels, abandoned mills, even storm sewers large enough for a person to crawl through. Could someone be hiding victims underground? The FBI began quietly investigating every utility tunnel, storm drain, and manhole within a 5-mile radius. Meanwhile, Sarah Aldridge, the first recipient, began getting messages of her own. Direct messages on Instagram. No username. No profile pic. Just words. You weren't supposed to hear that. Did you keep it? Tell anyone, and he dies. The FBI traced the IP. It pinged from Germany, then Belarus, then disappeared. Sarah was terrified. She hadn't done anything wrong. But now, she wasn't just a bystander, she was a part of something. And whoever was behind it wanted her scared. She wasn't sleeping. She wasn't eating. She didn't feel safe even walking Jasper anymore. Then, just when the messages stopped, the first body was found. April 27, 2022. Nearly 3 weeks since Sarah received the first speaker. It was a maintenance worker with the Chagrin Falls Water Department who made the discovery. He was inspecting a manhole along a maintenance route behind the old Sawmill Trail, a wooded area barely frequented except by joggers and teens looking for a place to smoke. The manhole cover was partially dislodged, tilted just enough to suggest someone had opened it recently. When the worker peered inside with his flashlight, he thought he saw a pile of old tarps and debris. But something about the shape seemed wrong. He climbed down. What he found stopped him cold. There, lying face down in a few inches of shallow runoff water, was the decomposing body of a young man. No ID. No phone. Just soaked jeans, a flannel shirt, and a Bluetooth speaker, identical to the others, lying beside him, its battery long dead. The scene was immediately locked down. The medical examiner placed the time of death between 2 and 3 weeks prior, consistent with the timeline of the first recording Sarah received. The victim had no visible wounds. No signs of a struggle. No ligature marks. Toxicology revealed traces of benzodiazepines and an animal-grade tranquilizer commonly used on livestock. He had likely been sedated, kept alive for some time, before being dumped. And most disturbing of all? There were tiny marks around his neck and shoulders. Not from ropes or chains, but from electrodes. Like someone had used low-grade medical devices on him. Maybe even a neural stimulator. The FBI, now treating this as an active homicide, had no way to identify the man. No fingerprints in any system. No missing persons report. No dental records. He was a John Doe. But for the first time, investigators had physical proof that the voice recordings weren't fiction. Someone had died. Sarah was brought back in for questioning. She broke down. Said she hadn't told anyone, but a second package had arrived 5 days after the first. No speaker this time, just a flash drive. She hadn't opened it. Too scared. She gave it to the FBI. Inside the drive was a single audio file. The same male voice. But clearer. And more detailed. It was nearly 5 minutes long. "Please. I don't know where this is going. He keeps asking me questions, strange questions, about my family, my memories. I told him I worked construction. That I have a son named Micah. If Micah hears this, buddy, I didn't leave. I'm not running. I love you. I love you more than anything. Micah." It was the first real lead. A nationwide search was launched for any child named Micah whose father was missing, possibly working in construction. Within 72 hours, they found a match. Micah Stroud, age 12, from Lima, Ohio, about 3 hours southwest of Chagrin Falls. His father, Brian Stroud, had been reported missing 6 months earlier. He'd left for a 1-week drywall contract job in Sandusky and never came back. Police initially believed he may have skipped town due to financial troubles. There were no signs of foul play at the time. But when they played the audio for Micah, he broke down crying. "That's him," he said. "That's my dad." DNA confirmed it. The body in the tunnel was Brian Stroud. The case, once thought to be the work of an internet prankster, had turned into a multi-jurisdictional investigation with a confirmed homicide, a growing list of victims, and a killer who was getting bolder. 2 weeks later, a second body was discovered. Another drainage tunnel, this time beneath an abandoned textile mill, just 7 miles from the first site. Female, mid-20s. Similar drug traces. Same marks on the skin. And this time, a speaker still functioning. It played one sentence on loop. "He's not done." The second victim was identified through a lucky break. Her name was Noelle Kravitz, age 26, from Erie, Pennsylvania. She'd been reported missing 7 months earlier after her car was found abandoned outside a rest stop on I-90. Investigators at the time suspected foul play but had no leads, until now. Like Brian Stroud, Noelle had no connection to Chagrin Falls, no known local ties, and no reason to be anywhere near that area. That's what made the discovery so chilling. The victims weren't local. They were being brought there. But by who? And how? That's when Agent Kendra Moriarty, a forensic linguistics expert with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, made a key observation. She'd been analyzing the voice recordings for patterns, dialect, syntax, even emotional pacing, and something stood out. In the second message, the one Sarah received on the flash drive, Brian Stroud had mentioned being asked strange questions? Questions about his childhood, his memories. It wasn't just interrogation, it sounded like testing. Psychological probing. But why? Then Agent Moriarty noticed something else. In the background of one of the later recordings, specifically the fourth speaker found on the hood of a car at the Shell gas station, you could faintly hear a mechanical whine. Almost like a servomotor. Followed by a soft clicking sound. Rhythmic. Repetitive. It wasn't ambient noise. It was controlled. Artificial. She ran the clip through advanced audio filters and isolated the sound. A machine. Not construction equipment, but something quieter and more precise. A 3D printer. The FBI's tech division ran with the lead and discovered that several specialty printers capable of producing internal electronics were purchased in the last 18 months under false names, shipped to drop addresses in northeastern Ohio. The orders weren't massive, just one machine at a time. But the materials requested alongside them raised red flags: carbon resin, flexible PCB materials, conductive polymers, components typically used in building small custom devices. Like Bluetooth speakers. But there was more. one of the delivery locations matched an old industrial building leased under a shell corporation out of Georgia. The name on the lease: Myrmidon Systems LLC. It had no website, no business records, nothing. But when investigators looked deeper into the lease, they found a real name linked to the signing: Dr. Landon Vexler. A name that hadn't appeared in any criminal database. Because until 5 years ago, Dr. Vexler was a Department of Defense contractor. A biomedical engineer working in the field of neurocognitive mapping, specifically in the use of electrical stimulus to provoke memory retrieval and behavior modification. In short, a mind-hacking specialist. Vexler had abruptly resigned in 2017 after internal concerns about unauthorized experiments. His lab was shut down, and he vanished from public record. Until now. Agents raided the abandoned building the next morning. Inside, they found what looked like a makeshift lab: soldering irons, chemical containers, biometric scanners, surgical gloves, and 2 3D printers still warm. But no people. No victims. Just rows of Bluetooth speakers. At least a dozen. And on a table nearby, a laptop, open and running an encrypted server. The interface showed scheduled file drops, audio clips, queued and timestamped, set to stream automatically through connected speaker units across various GPS coordinates. The packages had been automated. The killer wasn't delivering them manually anymore. He was using drop bots. Low-profile delivery drones or human mules. But it was what they found next that broke the case wide open. Tucked beneath the desk, inside a locked drawer, was a notebook. Handwritten. Dozens of pages, filled with test logs. Each log listed a subject. No names, just numbers. Subject 024, initial intake, compliant. Responds to familial triggers. Resistance to suggestion equals moderate. Injected with compound K17. Voice recording stored. Subject 026, audio transcript indicates growing paranoia. Electrostim mapping began April 10th. Uploaded speaker scheduled April 13th. It wasn't just a killing spree. It was a twisted experiment. Each recording wasn't just a cry for help. It was part of a test, an emotional trigger, designed to study how real people would respond. Sarah, Lisa, the others, they weren't just recipients. They were test subjects too. The killer had been watching them. And somewhere out there, he still was. Because on the final page of the notebook, beneath a list of voice IDs, was a chilling scribble. Next drop, Subject 031, S. Aldridge, escalate emotional response. Observe fear saturation. Sarah. She was never a random target. She was part of the experiment. The moment Sarah Aldridge's name was found in that notebook, the FBI escalated her protection to 24-hour surveillance. 2 agents were stationed inside her home, another 2 outside. But Sarah didn't feel safer, she felt hunted. Every noise in the night became a threat. Every flicker on her ring cam made her heart race. She barely slept, ate, or spoke. And then came May 12th. At 3:44 a.m., Sarah's ring camera detected motion. An unmarked delivery van pulled up 2 houses down. A man in a black hoodie stepped out, holding what looked like a plain cardboard box. He walked to the neighbor's porch, looked directly at Sarah's camera, and waved. By the time agents responded, the man was gone. The van had no plates. But the box? Inside, 1 more Bluetooth speaker. And a note. A handwritten message scrawled on yellow legal paper. Fear is the purest data. Thank you for participating. The speaker was playing. A new voice. Unfamiliar. Female. Shaky. I'm still here. He's watching us. Watching you? You shouldn't have listened. The message looped. The FBI realized something horrifying. This wasn't over. It was scaling up. Dr. Landon Vexler had vanished without a trace. Fingerprints at the lab matched his military records, but no digital footprint remained. No credit cards, no driver's license renewals, no bank activity. He'd built an infrastructure that didn't rely on his presence. And somewhere out there, he was still pulling strings. Sarah was quietly relocated under witness protection. Her name changed, her dog Jasper rehomed with family, and her online presence wiped. But in the months that followed, similar packages began showing up across the Midwest. Indianapolis, Madison, Grand Rapids. Each one contained a speaker. Each played a voice. Each told a different piece of the puzzle. Some sounded like recorded memories. Others like people confessing things they couldn't have possibly done. One voice said, "I think I'm someone else. I don't remember who I used to be." Another said, "He made me love him. Then he made me forget why." Experts from multiple federal agencies began to suspect that Wexler wasn't just killing victims. He may have been rewriting them first, using a combination of neurological stimulation and psychological torture to warp memory, induce panic, then record the results for analysis. The goal wasn't just control. It was understanding fear on a biological level, as if he were trying to map the mechanics of terror. There were even unconfirmed reports of individuals claiming to have received their own voice on a speaker, saying things they don't remember saying. Self-confessions from a version of themselves they couldn't recall. The case was officially categorized as a bio-cyber-psychological threat. A joint task force was formed, and Wexler was added to the FBI's most wanted list under a sealed alias. His face has never been shown to the public. His real location is still unknown. But his devices continue to surface. Quietly. Strategically. No mass panic. No major news coverage. Just a whisper network of investigators, analysts, and survivors. And one final note. In September of 2024, Sarah Aldridge, under her new identity, received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a Polaroid. It showed a dim room, a folding chair, and a single light bulb hanging above a speaker. On the back of the photo, in the same handwriting as before, "I miss your fear." They say fear is a survival instinct. But for one man, it was the blueprint. And for the people who heard those voices, the nightmare didn't end when the speaker stopped. It started the moment they realized someone was still listening.